all of the value processes that I know depend on building up the sense of value in layers. So that if we have a form that what I want to do is first help myself see, okay, if I've got a light source that's up above it, then I know the part that's away from that light source is going to look differently than the part that's facing it, okay? So the thing I have to do is make sure that I don't get suckered into all the subtleties that might be in there, because we know there's lots of little deviations and whatever. But I want to first convince myself that I've got a three-dimensional form. Applying it, I'm always trying to keep it knit together. I'm trying to avoid breaking it into little spots. Is this making sense? So it's layers. I'm applying it in layers. There are a couple things that are going to help me. First of all, if I work from light to dark and I undershoot, then I'm always going to be in better shape than if I nail something and then I try to pull it back. Now, charcoal is very forgiving. You can do that, but not everything is. So another thing that really helps me is that there's always reflected light, and we tend not to see it. Does this make sense? You guys, you know what I mean by reflected light, right? For example, that there's light, no matter what the actual lights are doing, light is bouncing everywhere, all the time. And so there's light going all the way around this on all sides. Okay? And as something reaches our horizon, that light, both top and bottom, that light, you're seeing more surface area because as it's going away, it's collapsed behind it, right? Does that make sense? If you're looking at your arm, when you look straight at a point, you're seeing a small area, but when you look at the part that's going away, you're seeing quite a distance there. So there's a lot of light that happens at the edges. And you won't see it very well on the side that's already got the light hitting it, that's all going to dissolve together, but you're going to see it in the dark. Right? So you're always going to have a reflected light here rather than having that. If you shade right to the edge, it's never going to be quite right. The moment that you give it a little reflected light, and the trick here, and the problem we always have when you have a model set up there, is that she's already in the pose, and we tend not to see the reflected light. And if she moves, then you suddenly see as her leg lifts away from the platform, there's less reflected light and it changes. But still lifes and a model that's already posed, we're not going to see that. We're not going to tend to believe it. And another thing that goes along with reflected light, one of my favorite terms in drawing is the Terminator. So the Terminator is from astronomy, right? So it's the point at which the form passes from shadow into light, and it's not a hard edge, not the same way it would be on the moon. You know, why is it a harder edge on the moon? Because there's no air. There's not a lot of the diffraction of light the way it would be anywhere else. But in the figure, the Terminator is going to be this darker band. It may be hard to see in some situations, but if you notice, there's more than one in this case, but you see that slightly darker ridge, and then it's especially here, you can see it because when there's reflected light underneath it, it highlights the fact that even though that's getting closer to the light source, it's actually darker because this has reflected light and that doesn't. Is that making sense? So no matter what, whether you're hatching or using an eraser or building it up with charcoal, the way to do it is to unify it, to understand what the form is doing, apply it in the simplest way you can. It'll get more complicated as you go, but apply it in layers. And instead of trying to do every kind of different value that there is as you go, apply a general, the lightest value, so you're not going to have to retract it, and then apply the next darker wherever it goes, and the next darker wherever it goes, making sure to leave reflected light. Okay, so there's a process, and we can explore that.